system. Fog?
Yeah, is this some kind of a joke?
Knock it off.
Don't talk.
You think that you've been seeing something like this?
At night.
Something that you can't see and you can't read about. You can only hear about it or learn about it as it attacks you.
What if the monster under the bed wasn't just a childhood fear, but a real ancient presence that waits in the dark?
It's too late for you.
Whispering your name when no one else can hear it. In one house, a boy's nightmares begin to twist into reality. In another, a woman's new apartment hides something far worse than loneliness. 2 stories, 2 cursed beds, and 1 terrifying truth. Some things don't want to be found. They want to find you. Story 1. Tommy was only 9 years old when the nightmares began. He lived with his mother, Susan, in a small old house at the edge of the forest. The house was once part of a nearby asylum that had been abandoned for years. Local kids said the place was cursed, but Susan didn't believe in such things. She just needed a cheap place to live. At first, Tommy only heard strange noises at night, scratching like claws dragging on the wooden floor, sometimes whispering low and deep just under his bed. "It's just the wind," Susan said, "or a mouse." But Tommy knew better. Something was there, and it was waiting. One night, Tommy saw something. A long black hand with claws slid out from under the bed. It moved slowly, then disappeared before he could scream. He told his mother, crying, but she didn't believe him. "No more horror movies before bed," she said, taking away his tablet. But Tommy hadn't watched anything. He was too scared to even sleep now. The next night, he stayed awake with a flashlight, aiming it under the bed. Nothing. But when the light was off, the whispers came again. "Tommy, play with me." He began having dreams, if they were dreams at all. In them, he saw an entity with red glowing eyes and a wide mouth full of sharp teeth. It was always under the bed, and it whispered secrets to him. Things a child should never know. Things that didn't feel like dreams at all. Susan began to notice changes in her son. He stopped eating. His eyes had dark circles. He spoke less. One night she found him talking to nothing, saying things in a strange language. Panicked, she took him to a doctor. They said it might be stress or maybe a phase, but one specialist mentioned something strange: sleep paralysis. Sometimes children imagine things when their bodies are asleep, but their minds are awake. But Susan began to feel something too. At night, she heard footsteps in Tommy's room. Once, she saw a shadow move across the hallway mirror, even though no one was there. She installed a camera in Tommy's room. The next morning, the surveillance footage showed Tommy asleep, then suddenly sitting up at 3:33 a.m., speaking in that strange language again, eyes wide open. And behind him, something moved under the bed. She took the footage to the police. They thought it was edited. "Maybe you should talk to a therapist," they said. Desperate, Susan went online, deep into forums and the dark web, looking for help. She found a post about a creature known as the Sleeper, an eldritch being that lived under children's beds, feeding on fear. It would begin with whispers, then dreams, and finally, possession. There was one way to stop it, a ritual, a forbidden one. It required burning a black candle, chanting a phrase at midnight, and placing a mirror under the bed to trap the creature's soul. But the warning was clear. If the ritual failed, the monster would be free forever. Susan decided to try. That night, she waited until midnight. Tommy was asleep. The candle burned black smoke. She whispered the chant, hands shaking. She slid a mirror under the bed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the bed began to shake. Tommy screamed. The whispering turned to screams. A black, twisted figure began to crawl out, but its reflection in the mirror burned like fire. It screeched, tried to escape, but vanished into the mirror with a final scream. Then silence. Tommy opened his eyes, confused but calm. The next day, Susan buried the mirror deep in the forest, never to be found again. They moved out. But sometimes when Tommy is alone at night, he still hears a soft whisper from under the bed. "You didn't trap me. I'm still here." Some monsters hide in the dark. Others wait in plain sight, silent, patient, eternal. Though Susan believed the nightmare was over, the truth lingered in the shadows. Evil doesn't die. It waits. Beneath every bed, behind every whisper, something listens. And for Tommy, growing older may not mean growing safe. Some monsters never leave. Story 2. Emily Carter had just turned 24 when she moved into her first apartment alone. It was small and old, with creaky floors and yellowing wallpaper. But the rent was cheap, and she liked the idea of isolation. She worked nights at a bookstore, so most of her days were quiet. Too quiet, some might say. The apartment came with an old bed left by the last tenant. The landlord said the guy just disappeared, left everything behind. Emily thought that was strange, but shrugged it off. At first, things were fine, but within a week, Emily began having hallucinations. She'd wake up and see someone standing in the corner of her room, a tall shadow with long limbs. But when she turned on the light, it vanished. She told herself it was just sleep paralysis, stress, lack of sleep, but the feeling of being watched never left her. Then came the noises. At 2 a.m., something would move under her bed. Soft thuds, scratching. Once, she heard breathing. She called her best friend, Jake. "I swear something's under my bed," she said over the phone. "I hear it every night." Jake laughed. "Maybe it's a rat." "No, it talks sometimes, in whispers." He stopped laughing. That night, Jake came over and checked under the bed. Nothing. But he did find something strange wedged between the floorboards. A VHS tape. It was unlabeled, dusty, and looked ancient. They borrowed an old player from a thrift store and watched the tape together. It was surveillance footage, shaky and black and white, showing a man sleeping in the same room. At exactly 2 a.m., the man's bed began to shake. Then something pulled him under, screaming blood, then static. Jake was pale. "We should call someone." "But who?" The tape looked too old. There was no proof. Emily called the landlord, asking about the last tenant. He hung up on her. She couldn't sleep that night. She kept the lights on. When the clock hit 2 a.m., the bed creaked, then whispering, "Join me beneath." Terrified, Emily ran to sleep on the couch. Over the next few days, things got worse. Emily saw herself in the mirror, but her reflection didn't move. It smiled when she didn't. It whispered back when she asked questions. A doppelganger. She began losing time, waking up in different places. Once, she found a knife in her hand, not knowing how it got there. Another time, she woke up under the bed, dirty, shivering, and whispering in a language she didn't know. Jake begged her to leave, but Emily felt possessed, like something was holding her there. Desperate, Jake found an old blog on the dark web that mentioned a demonic entity named Velthar, a being that haunted beds in cursed abandoned places. It lured victims through dreams, fed on fear, and eventually took over their bodies. The only way to stop it? A forbidden ritual. Jake copied the steps: salt around the bed, a black candle, and a mirror placed under the frame. At 2 a.m., chant the entity's name 3 times and demand it reveal itself. That night, Emily and Jake followed the ritual. 2 a.m. Silence. Then the bed shook violently. The candle blew out. The mirror under the bed shattered. From beneath, long black fingers curled out, followed by a head with hollow eyes and a crooked mouth. Jake screamed. Emily stared in shock. The thing looked exactly like her. It spoke. "She's already mine." The room went dark. When the light came back, Emily was gone. Only her reflection remained in the broken shards of the mirror. smiling. Jake was never seen again. The apartment is now empty. No one wants to live there. Locals say it's haunted, that at night you can hear whispers from under the bed. Some believe Emily is still there, waiting, watching. You check under the bed, and it checks back. Now the bed sits undisturbed, the room quiet, but evil echoes in silence. What was Emily is no longer hers, and if you ever feel something watching you from below, don't look, don't speak, don't move. Because once it knows you believe in it, it believes in you, and then it's already begun. And that's the chilling tales of the monster under the bed. Was it a paranormal entity, or just a sleep paralysis-induced hallucination? The line between reality and nightmare blurs. What do you think? Drop your thoughts below. Like, share, and subscribe for more haunted horrors and forbidden legends.